Well, I put off filming long enough. I finally got the L48 out of the vet that was really weak and pitiful of an engine on the engine stand. Most of the junk is off it. Got some more to go, especially these cylinder heads or the 882s. I think it's a, what is it? It's a car's a 74. According to the numbers, which you can find here, date code is here on these. Here's your engine 010 means 350. Just stuff that people ask questions about all the time. Your date code's right here. If you look, it's kind of hard to see. It's so dirty. But 34. That means it was made in 1974. So probably a matching number engine to this car. The car only had 34,000 miles on it. It just, as you can see, leaked oil everywhere. I mean, it was really bad. Pardon the garbage fram filter. I don't typically use those, but you know how the internet likes to bash on the old frams. But that's that. Yeah, the thing was just a pig. It barely ran. Barely would even burn out. So, I mean, obviously the 6.0 is a big upgrade. But this engine needs to go into this little guy here. So we're going to go into it. We got some world heads that I'm cleaning up that I had on another engine. And at least those are 202 valves and stuff. I know some people say, well, the 882s had 202s, but not in an L48. They always had the smaller valves in these. Big chamber, small valve, no flow, basically is what these are. Emissions heads. So running the world heads are a 202. I believe the exhausts are raised, so they got straighter flow, bigger ports. So they're just better. They're not far. They're far from getting like a Brodix or an AFR or either trick flow or something like that. Those are really good. But for our application, going from a 4.3 that's, I'd say, blown up now because it struggles to even go up hills now. And smokes a lot of blue, so I'm pretty sure the rings are bad. Going from that to a, I don't know, hopefully I'll be in the 300 horse range, 350, we should be doing very good. We'll tear into this motor. I'll get a few parts off, show you what's inside so you can see what we're working with. And so I guess let me get after it and stay tuned. Well, we got the valve covers off and the intake off, and as you can see, this is the main reason why I wanted to use this engine, because as you can see, it's very legitimately 30,000 miles. I mean, the thing has got no sediment in here. The thing sat for 30 some odd years, and it looks like this. Very good. The only issue is all the seals, all the gaskets, everything was totally trashed. I don't know if you guys will be able to see. I don't know. Let me see if I can get in there. No, of course not. Anyways, every single valve seal is completely pouring oil right into the chambers. And the thing smoked quite a bit when it was cold anyway, at least, you know. And you just can't have that in a car. And we all know the L48 performance-wise was 100 on this year, I believe it was 195 horsepower in a Corvette, which just doesn't make sense to me. So that's why it's out here. And the only way to have fixed it was to take it out of the car. And I'll be damned if I was going to put it back in, because it's just not good enough for our application anyway, without spending a ton of money making it like a 383 with 10.5 to 1 with good heads, and you're talking thousands. I'd rather just do my 6-liter with over 500 horse, and the thing's a monster. And it's a one-off now instead of just another Corvette. So that's why I did what I did. But I would hate to waste this engine just sitting there under the bench. And the more I thought about it, I was going to keep it so, the car can stay in matching numbers and all that. But honestly, even when you talk to the guys at like the Corvette Museum, a 74 L48 is just never going to be that desirable when you got, 427 4-speed cars and stuff out there. So it doesn't really do this engine any justice leaving it under a bench for 20 years, and then if forever the car got sold for some reason, oh wow, the matching engine, hooray, get an extra couple $100 or something. It's just not worth it when you got a good engine that you can work with. And once we get into the bores, I can show you, because I already ran my bore scope down, and the cross hatching is beautiful. Everything looks great in there, so that's good, because I thought for sure the rings might have rusted up, and that's why it was blowing oil. But it's clearly the valve seals. I mean, I really wish I could show you guys. Let me try to get a light, and I'll put you back on. All right, I got a light. I don't know if the camera will ever do this justice, but just look at the oil in here. I mean, it's unreal. Let me see if I can get the light. There. It's all black and crusted on. There's a ton of oil going right in. You see how crusty it is? That's all oil that's burned. It's really nasty stuff. Yeah, it's like tar, Really nasty. That's on the exhaust side. On the intake side, we didn't fare much better. It's just a little less heat. But you can see there's still a ton of oil getting in there. And that's causing all these problems. So this thing needed to be torn apart, and anyways, it needed to be torn down and get the heads redone anyways, and it needed to get a rear main seal, oil pan, timing cover, front seal, probably head gaskets just from sitting. I mean, it's just the thing needed to come out of the engine, or the engine needed to come out of the car no matter what. So that's what we had to do, and that's what we're doing. So let me keep wrenching, and I'll catch you guys up when I get a little farther. And one more thing before I get too far ahead and forget to tell you. One reason that it's important to look at date codes like this, it doesn't seem like a big deal. A 350 is kind of a 350. Obviously the early ones had better compression pistons and things like that, and you got the 1 or 2-piece rear main. But the thing to look at is, being a 74, you have to worry about lead. Now that means that your exhaust seats are probably not hardened. It's a chance, because 75 was really the year that mattered. I know part of 74 they say did, some didn't. So there's a good chance that this engine is supposed to be running lead additive in it every time you drive it. Otherwise it's just beating the exhaust seats. So chances are good there might even be some serious issues with those as well. And that could be one of our problems. So it's hard to tell. But just to know, for anybody who's watching, when you're buying an old 350, 454, whatever you're buying, any engine, even Fords and everything, if you're buying anything like pre-75, chances are good it requires lead. And that's an annoying thing to deal with. On a collector car where you're never going to really drive it, it doesn't really matter that much. You can add it with every tank. You go through 3 tanks a year. But when you got something like this, where I'm going to drive the truck around quite a bit, and the last thing I'm going to do is waste money on extra additives and things, because it's far from a beauty queen, I'm not building it to be a show vehicle. It's going to be a useful tool and a lot of fun, but that's kind of where it ends, There's definitely a clear difference in builds. So that's just something to remember when you're looking at these Chevys. A lot of them are date coded here in this corner. They have different spots. You got to just look and see, pretty much Google it at this day and age, and it'll tell you where the date codes are in the engine. Just check it out. It's just a good thing if you're ever buying a used motor like this. So make sure you're getting something that you can use if you're ever reusing cylinder heads and things. So all right, now it's time to start wrenching again. Well, the balancer pulled off without too much of a problem. But just to show you how these seals are. Now you can look here and see these gobs of Permatex here. So somebody's clearly been in here to try to seal this thing up from leaking at one time. Clearly it didn't work very well. But it doesn't even look like this seal was ever done, because this is part of the seal. See how it's that brownish color just like the seals? And look at it. It's literally, I mean, that's how dry rotted the seals get and gaskets get in these old engines. So definitely stay on top of this type of thing. And another pointer, if you're getting a junkyard motor, you might as well just go through all these gaskets and seals, because when they're in the vehicle, it's a real pain in the ass to get this kind of stuff off. You got to take every single part of the front of the engine off on this thing just to get to this. And you got to drop the oil pan, I believe, on this one because of the way these lips are in here. So, good thing our oil pan is all rusty and crappy, so we've got to replace it anyways. We'll probably use a pickup truck one that has a little different contour to it, maybe a little bit not shallower, but shorter. So like, instead of having the drop all the way down, maybe have it like to here type of deal. That way it gives us a little more driveline clearance. But yeah, I just wanted to stop and show you guys what bad seals look like. Well, we got our cylinder heads off. We got it all apart a little more. Got the oil pan off. Head gaskets were in pretty good shape. There was some corrosion on them around the coolant passages where we're starting to eat away. These did say GM on them, so I believe it hasn't been touched in here, which is pretty miraculous on an engine from 1974 to, was it 2020 now, so there's no rust ridge here at all. This is just a carbon ridge from it dumping oil through the valve seals and it running so poorly with the screwed up carburetor they had on there. You can see your L48 pistons that have the what do you call it, dished, inverted dome some people call it, dished, but yeah, that's what those are. A nice low compression deal. The lifters all look good. I got one side out. The bores are all really nice shape. I mean, it's really amazing. I don't know if you can catch it on camera, but I'll try to show a picture of the cylinder cross hatching is just like brand new, like really amazing. Like it's actually an actual 30,000 mile engine, you know. Like normally, oh, I had 130,000 and they lie, you know. But this thing, from looking at it inside, seeing the cylinders, and just overall, like yeah, the pan's dirty from stuff dripping in it, but there was nothing in the pan sediment-wise at all. Just like old oil. There was no particles to show any excessive wear of any kind. Like compared to that 4L80E I just rebuilt, I mean this thing's like brand new. So a lot of cleaning ahead of us. New camshaft and timing chain and that good stuff. Oil pan, that thing's all smashed and rusted. I don't know if you can see them over there. Some World Product heads over there that I've been starting to clean up. They were a little nastier than I was hoping, but they'll come along. Another intake manifold over there. And we got a bunch of 4x4 parts over here that we're going to be in for phase 3 of the S10 build. So phase 1 is done. Here's phase 2, along with here's the headers for it, engine mounts, and phase 3 will be starting, so the front diff will be out of it, and that'll make room to fit our regular oil pan, so we're not spending a ton of money on an oil pan that we don't need. So I'm going to keep wrenching and get this cam out, get these bores measured, and decide if I want to get some new rings or not. Well, got the cam out, got the engine flipped over, got the gasket all off, and I'll tell you, it's really miraculous to see how clean everything is. I mean, look at the screen. It's just amazing. This is the best engine I think I've ever taken apart. Your standard 2-bolt main L48, but it definitely does have the low mileage they said it did, because everything is, like, you can see the skirts and the pistons. I mean, there's no wear on anything. The cylinders look great. There's not even any rust from all those years of sitting. I did see on the cam on a couple of the lobes that there was some pitting, so that means while it was sitting, it did rust at one time. It had been running now for a few years, so obviously that's all gone. So we're going to pull off the rear main cap and the oil pump, and do the rear main seal. And while we're in there, we'll do a quick ID on the main bearing there and see. But there was no knocks or anything in this engine, and it always had good oil pressure. And this is all factory GM stuff. You can see on the pump here it says GM. I don't know if you can even. Yeah, GM there. The cam said GM on it. The head gaskets, those were GM stamping parts. I don't foresee, I believe that this is the first time this engine has seen any light inside of it since 1974. Like, it really looks that way. Which is cool, because it kind of, we're taking a boat anchor here that really isn't overly desirable. And we're going to put it in something that's going to be a lot of fun, and it will have a new lease on life. So stay tuned, and I'll keep wrenching. Well, I took apart my World product heads, and they were on my boat before, and the boat engine was having trouble, so I took it apart and found that the chambers and all the ports were full of rust, because water must have gotten into the engine through the exhaust. So these heads are about trash. I believe they probably sat frozen, maybe, with water in them. So not worth messing with. So luckily a good buddy of mine owns a machine shop, and I got a set of these Vortec heads here that have already been machined for the bigger lift cams, because they have a trouble with clearance right here. They machine the valve guide tops, and it's already got new springs with stainless valves, so these heads are ready to bolt on. And instead of the factory huge chambers that are, some people have measured them up to 80 cc's even, but they supposed to be, I believe, a 74 cc on the 882 heads, and these are a 62, so that'll definitely up our compression quite a bit. So we're going to get going on that. We got some nice head gaskets there in the background, you can see. They're a little thinner than what you'd get in like your Felpro kits, about half the size actually, so that'll help with our compression also. So yeah, it's a real shame that these World heads are trash. I was really hoping they were going to be good, but that's the kind of stuff you run into when you're resurrecting the dead again, and that's what this carcass was. I just did the rear main. My battery died, so I couldn't show you it all, but got that on, got the main cap torqued again, got the oil pump on, ready to go. So the only thing that's missing here is the oil pan. We got to pull this gear off here for our new timing chain set. Probably get it on top dead center too, that way everything lines up easy. And got the new cam coming, that's not here yet either. I got a Lunati cam and lifter set up. We got a nice GM Performance, or Chevy Performance, whatever, Vortec aftermarket intake they have on their big crate engines with the Vortec heads. That, and then we got a new timing cover from Canton, I believe it is. Yeah, it's a Canton one. So we got that, bunch of gaskets. So time to start assembling this engine and getting it cleaned up and ready to go, because as you can see, it's still pretty filthy. So once I get it all buttoned up, I'll go through and clean it really good, then give it a brand new coat of Chevy orange. Well, we got the new Vortec heads installed. I also put some valve seals on the exhaust valves, because these were on a crate race engine, and with that in mind, they didn't have exhaust seals on, or exhaust valve seals, only on the intake side. But being a street engine, we're going to be driving it around. We don't need the extra smoke, so we got the valve seals on there, and then we torqued them all down the spec with new bolts. And this intake is just sitting on there to keep the garbage out. I also, I keep it in the bag too. But it's just one more thing out of the way I'm not tripping on. But that's all set, and I'm waiting on, as you can see, the cam. And then I'll also take the timing chain gear off, but I got to put it back on top dead center before I take it off. That way I know where we're at. And today's adventure is going to be yanking out the 4.3. That shouldn't take too long, hopefully. Hopefully everything comes along smooth. We'll see how many bad bolts we got. Most of it we can just cut out because we're replacing the majority of everything anyways. But the transmission I built for this Corvette has been nothing but a hassle. I'll tell you, I'm still waiting on the solenoid. That Monster sent me the incorrect one. I'm waiting on that still. It's been several days again. We've already waited months for all the parts to begin with, so it's just one more frustration. So sorry to my fans who are into the Corvette build. I will get to it as soon as I get all my stuff in line here. I just am getting frustrated. You know, the whole summer's gone, and we're still waiting on parts. So hopefully I'll get it together soon, and we can rip it around and have a little fun. So anyway, stay tuned. I'm going to start on this, and then I got phase 3 starting over there. But we'll get into that once the parts for that mess come in. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Please like and subscribe. Check us out on Instagram. We're the Mass Mechanics.